All right. Good morning, everyone. It's 37 minutes after the hour on this Tuesday. Wave meteorologist Brian Good. Welcome to the blog today. It is a special report today for the alert day that is out. Multiple issues. One, some of these actually relate to one another, but in their own way, they're all separate issues that we're tracking, kind of combined into one issue that we need to be aware of as we get to the next 24 hours, especially. But even for this afternoon, we may have a few issues that will develop. So here's what I'm going to do. First off, I see your comments. Thank you for posting those. Again, you can on YouTube, Facebook, and on X and Twitter. All right. To see everyone, Shonda, Ellen. I tell you what, I'll try my best to explain all this because it is a bit complex when I try to explain it in one gasp here, but I'm going to try to break it up as much as I can into sections. That way it's a little easier, hopefully, to understand. And at that point, if you still have questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer those for you guys. Okay, so let me be very clear. Start off right out of the gate here. We are not under any type of severe threat right now. There's nothing dangerous immediately about to happen. All right, we're talking about later today and tonight of anything that would take hold of the area. So this is a quiet period. You may have noticed it's mainly cloudy outside. Some of you are getting some light rain. Some of you are hoping that you're going to get some rain. And I think that will become a reality later on today. All right, a lot to cover. Let me start actually with well, there's the sky track. You can see it's overcast. But let me start with what a lot of people were talking about last night. Hold on one second. I got these all out of order. All right, I'll come back around here. This is what happens when I'm in a hurry. I'm always in a hurry. That wild complex of storms, what we call a derecho, which is a long-lived complex of storms doing wind damage of severe wind potential over 100 miles. I believe the official number is like 130. It's a very loosely termed definition for a derecho, but it's basically just a high wind event that does damage over a long period of time over many states. It covers a lot of real estate. And this was a classic example of that when the fuel built up yesterday in Illinois near Chicago. I believe the Cape, for those of you who understand Cape, and the fuel out there that was over 7,500. So it was an extremely unstable atmosphere. And one little impulse came along, fired up the storms. Then you had everything spinning. And then you had straight line winds, which in two locations reached over 100 miles per hour that were measured. And in Chicago, I'm sure you saw folks were stuck on the planes there at O'Hare and Midway with the sirens going off. I think at one point there was about 10 circulations in Chicago, or at least in Cook County, which is pretty remarkable. You don't see that often at all. And certainly one that will be looked at. A lot of students, meteorology students, I'm sure will be looking at this event last night because it was a pretty remarkable one to see unfold. And that is a threat to us sometimes in the summertime, these ratios, so these MCSs that come out and the very extreme heat scenarios and dive into our area. So it did build our way, but we didn't get the worst of the diving part because the fuel, the trigger for it all is still lagging behind it. So that's why the line just kind of fizzled out. But here is where the new area is taking over. The next little impulse, they've already slapped warnings on this in Missouri this early in the day, as this is going to now take the rain band that has settled in along the Ohio River back into St. Louis, which, by the way, I think they're in a pretty serious setup there in southeast St. Louis. Last I saw was either considerable or I think it was considerable flash flooding, borderline catastrophic level in that area. So very, very heavy rainfall around St. Louis. This entire band, there are issue warnings now you see into Kansas City. This entire area is going to push north and east as we head into this afternoon, while our current little band of fading rain will continue to push south and just fade away. So the question will be, a few questions, but one obvious one is the cloud cover from the one that's here now, that's fading out. How long is that going to linger? Is that going to really cut down on the amount of fuel this afternoon? Are we not going to be able to heat up in time? By the time this impulse, this is roughly in Kansas City, makes it into St. Louis, in Illinois, and then eventually pushes into Indiana, that's going to take 12 hours to do that. If it can gain some forward momentum, maybe sooner than that, but in rough estimate, about 12 hours, that will be moving in out of Missouri. So we have to wait and see how things are going to play out with the current band of rain. But so far, the indications are this is doing what we were looking at yesterday, which is where it was taking the leftover rain that's now in southwest Indiana and disintegrating it, dissolving it. There's nothing really to keep it going, so it just basically dries up for all intents and purposes into southern areas of Indiana. Once that dissolves, the first thing you're going to notice is the sun's going to try to get back out. Is the humidity is high. We're going to quickly get into a very humid, hot scenario. Heat advisories are out for that. And then we're going to get into the idea, did we get enough fuel when that wave moves in later to power up some intense thunderstorms? But just like we saw for the ones in Illinois, and we see in most cases, especially in the summer, it's going to eventually get too far east and sunset will be working against it. So that will be in our favor, especially if you're east of 65. That certainly plays out in your favor of reducing any strong wind threat, as it would likely run out of gas. Of course, I-65 looks to be the dividing line of when the storms are still fairly strong, and then they get to near 65, and then they weaken and they're weak east of 65. That happens often around here, right? So we're used to that, and that's exactly how today looks to play out. But it is a messy setup. There's a lot of things that can bust this forecast, and no doubt the clouds and the rain that we have now, if they linger longer than expected and that cuts down on the amount of heating this afternoon, your severe wind threat will be reduced dramatically. But it doesn't take us away from a flash flooding risk that will still exist along that boundary as it moves on in. So again, it's a multiple threat issue that we have that now that the front is now establishing itself into our backyard here. Okay, so that's last night's scenario. That's a brief synopsis of what I'm about to explain. Let me break it down for you all. Here's the current view on the radar and satellite. You can see a lot of high thin clouds across Kentucky. If you look outside, you could probably see the outline of the sun. There probably is a hazy sun in some areas of Kentucky. You should be able to see that. Indiana, not for you guys. You're still overcast and even some light rain that is falling. But again, that area, you can see that rain area is just shrinking down the past few moments, and the lightning count is gone. So that's going to be gone here very, very soon as this fades out. You can even see the outflow. I mean, this is crazy. This is the wind from the storms in Chicago. The wind is still going. I mean, much lighter than what it was, but still a decent little breeze heading toward Nashville. Pretty impressive. But again, this is the area we're watching for the regrouping and reorganizing of the next little ripple that's going to move along the front. And we'll just have to see how much of this mess here is still in the way when it happens. So here is the moisture levels. I'm only highlighting the ones that are really up there on level. And this is why southeast St. Louis, they've got that considerable flash flood warning out. Whether I think there's even some evacuations and rescues happening, is the water content. And again, I'm normally I can show you the green map and it's everywhere, right? Moisture's everywhere. It's summer, humidity all over the place, except for that west. I'm only showing you the highest of levels. And you can see that it's focused in Illinois and right along the Ohio River. So it makes sense that we would have flood watches out in that general area. Now, the heat part of this, we had a heat advisory out part of the area yesterday. They've expanded it to most of the area today. To get a high heat index in this scenario, there's two different ways. Let me try to explain. I'll try drawing to explain. Ignore the map and just pay attention to my lovely drawings. Okay. If you were to have, say, the ground fairly damp, but not overly saturated, it's not waterlogged. All right. It's dried out a bit. Some areas in Kentucky, especially, are at that level where you got some green trees and everything, but it's getting a little brown and patchy areas. The thermometer today, once the sun hits it, will be able to push the temperature up to the mid to upper 90s. But the combination of that, whatever moisture there is coming off the ground, which isn't much at all, will lead to a gradual heat index that will get up there of about 105 to maybe even 107, somewhere around there. I'm using a mouse to draw, so don't make fun of me. All right, you can get there that way. You can also get to that level if you have a very wet ground, but say clouds for a while linger longer like they will in Indiana and parts of Louisville. Therefore, your climb on the thermometer side is a little slower, but you have a lot of moisture coming off the ground, a lot of humidity because you're waterlogged. You will still get to the exact same spot of 105 to 107. You can get there both ways, one with sunshine and a dry ground, one with only some sunshine but a very wet ground. Humidity levels make the difference. This is more the heat index you run into a lot out west. This is the one we run into most common in the Ohio Valley, is the high humid scenario. high humidity one. For an asthmatic as myself, that's the worst. I can deal with a dry heat, if you will, upper 90s, heat index 104. It's not great, and you don't want to be out long. Trust me, I understand that. But even a temperature of 93 with a heat index of 105, that is where the air is so thick you can barely breathe. And when you're an asthmatic, especially, it's really tough. And even if you don't have asthma, it takes a toll on your body. So that's why they have the heat advisories out today for Indiana and really most of wave country, is mainly for the idea that we're going to have that potential to get to that limit of over 100 two different ways. Now, there is a best potential on both of those to squash both of that, and that would be, of course, a thicker cloud cover that lingers all day, and the thermometers just don't move much at all. And then you don't have to, it'll be humid, but it won't get to that level of 105. So that is one aspect that we're all working on today and just tracking. We're watching the temperatures, Kentucky Mesolnets, all the different weather stations in Indiana. We're tracking them every 5 minutes in some cases to see the trend in which areas. We already know which areas have the wetter soil than others. I will say that it's going to be the Lexington area over into Campbellsville area. That is the area that is drier than the rest of us. Louisville area and parts of West Central Kentucky and certainly Southern Indiana all have a high moisture content in the ground at the moment. So you guys are more on the heat index idea by dew point being excessive versus a lot of sun heating up. Now, if we were to get the sun in the damp ground areas as well today, then your heat index could get really, really, really high. So that's a whole other issue. I don't see that happening right now, but either way, take it easy. The heat, I know, is not as popular of a topic on social media when these heat alerts come out, but they are the most dangerous. They beat floods, they beat tornadoes on the amount of deaths they cause. So I don't want to discount that at all. Pay extra attention, right? So the heat is one. There's the flash or the flood watch. They don't call them flash flood watches anymore. They call them flood watches. Yet we have flash flood warnings. You know, it's confusing. There's the flood watch that is out for Cincinnati, Louisville, along the river back into St. Louis. And it's mainly for that patch of green I showed you a moment ago, where the high moisture content and those dew points are just running so high that the rainfall rate is going to be very close to 2 inches per hour. And these are slow movers. And it's east-west. Remember, east-west, not a good scenario for us. It doesn't always mean severe weather, but it certainly can mean a flash flooding setup because you end up with more than one round over and over and over again. Okay, the last of the threats is going to involve, of course, the severe thunderstorm side. Now, the fuel, this is measured by not only the heating of the sun, but also by humidity. But you can see what's happening in Missouri already. See how bright that is, that gold color Missouri and around St. Louis. It's already starting. It's already building up. And I think this is what has led to the Storm Prediction Center to think, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, we got the clouds in Kentucky into Illinois, and it's raining in St. Louis. But the game plan is there that as soon as the sun is able to hit all this, it's going to likely form another complex or a bowling ball, little MCS of thunderstorms. So they upgraded the severe potential for Missouri all the way to about Louisville. And I-65 is where it stops because at that point, we would be at sunset by the time they get here. So then it's a gradual weakening. That's why it's drawn that way and doesn't go all the way out. Obviously, there's a chance that if they're moving faster than expected, then they would have to keep extending that out a little further out. That happens sometimes, but looking at it on paper right now, that's about the best you can do, is where you think it's going to go. And then once it gets going, we'll have a better idea of where this needs to be. The threats on this, main threat is going to be straight line wind. That could be over 65 miles per hour in some cases, and some of those Boeing segments. I don't think it's going to be widespread. I think it's going to be a few Boeing segments, and I do not see a repeat of what Chicago went through. All right, the setup is not the same on that, but it's still got a kick to it, and it could still cause some damage. So we'll make sure we're paying attention to that. So how does this all unfold when it comes to the timing of this? There's a closer view again, your slight risk. I don't want you to get too locked in on where the slight and marginal is. Just get the idea that it's rolling in from the west. Rolling in from the west and weakening as it heads east. We'll figure out all the counties and all that out later. All right, here is Futurecast showing the morning round of showers, again, heading south, fading out rapidly. This model is a little slower on that than the others are, but it does fade it out. And then we get some heating. And here we are at about 9 or so, 8:30 into the evening hours. We will likely have hit into the 90s in several spots. And then the storms in Missouri and Illinois have already begun to fire. We're getting closer to sunset. So again, the time frame for these to stay severe is going to be very limited, but I think they will at least approach our western counties with the potential for a few warnings, especially if they can organize into a Boeing segment. You bet there will be warnings. Guarantee there will be warnings if there's a Boeing segment. All right. If we don't get that Boeing segment, it may just be a blob of heavy rain moving through the area and perhaps some flash flooding. These are going to have flash flooding potential no matter what, just because the rainfall rate is indeed so high. Once we get past 7 o'clock and midnight, the heaviest of the rain and the severe threat's over. At that point, we'll just be dealing with showers that will linger for a while. We may have some redevelopment again on Wednesday morning, and again Wednesday afternoon, but it does look a little more disorganized tomorrow than what we've had, what we could have for tonight. But still, we will have to add on these rain totals for tomorrow too. So finally, by the time we head into late Wednesday night, Thursday morning, we had a chance to take a break for a couple of days. This is just an estimate on rainfall from the modeling. This only is got only about 1 to 2 inches in a few spots there. The last run I ran on this a few moments ago had widespread 4 inches of rain into Louisville. So every single model run is going to look different. So I really debate on even showing you all a rainfall map because the models aren't going to get this right. Just know that if you're along the path of this thunderstorm activity tonight, especially in southern Indiana and along I-64 in Kentucky, to get more than 2 inches of rain can certainly happen. Absolutely, especially if you get more than one. So be weather aware, and it's going to be at night. So watch out for flash flooding. And as I always say, turn around, don't drown, right? So that's the game line. You're going to be asking a lot about timing. I don't have a specific timing yet, only because I've got to track the first round of rain that fades out. The general thinking on this, there could be a few pop-ups this afternoon that can develop is when the sun hits the humid atmosphere. It can easily create a few thunderstorms. But as far as timing out that impulse that's in Kansas City to St. Louis, that wave, it will take until after 6 o'clock, after 6 o'clock through the midnight hour to arrive. So it's going to be an evening event for the main rain chance that I see. Can't rule out anything popping in advance of it and even some downpours after it. But I think 6 to 12 is probably the window I may put on this. I haven't fully decided yet. I'm still going over some of the data that's rolling in for the midday time period. So I'll let you guys know on the midday show what is decided at that point. Any questions? That's where we stand. If you're good, type 31.4. 31.4 if you're good. If not, then let me know and I'll try to answer. I'm going to start with most recent because more than likely I've already answered some of the questions that came up. Hello, Sean. Katie. Heavy rain. Are we still expecting that in the Carrollton area? Yeah, I mean, you're going to get whatever happens from this band to the west. Once it moves your way, yes, you will have some heavy rainfall, but that is going to be a while. The current clouds and showers that moved through this morning has stabilized you enough anyway to keep it calm for you, but that's nothing heavy. Nothing heavy. All right. Let's see. All right, I got Katie's question. See Barbara. Hello, Barbara. Hello, Angie. Thank you, Angie, for putting that on. Appreciate that. Sean, what about the system coming in this weekend? Heard it might be a soaker next week. Yes, it could. I don't have time today to get into that, but it is actually the same basic system that's in the area today. It heads south on Thursday, sits there for a couple of days, comes back. And that will be our heavy rain setup for next week. But it will, the game plan is to get it south of I-40 to give us a break for a couple of days. Now, I have seen times when models have said that, and you get right to the event, and then the front and the boundary gets stuck and doesn't get much further south than I-64. And then you end up, you erase the dry days, and then your entire 10-day becomes nothing but waterlogged. It's rain every day because nothing has changed. Nothing is moving. So we're hoping, based on what we're seeing so far, and even today, it's still there. So it's good to get that zone, that boundary to I-40 and give us a break. And then we'll come back up to I-64, perhaps as early as late Saturday night or Sunday, the way it's looking. I would say at this point, if you're planning for anything outside, plan on Friday. Friday will be a good day. Will Brandenburg get heavy rain? Everyone that is watching has the chance for heavy rain. Everyone watching. Let's see. Nikki, is there a chance for high wind and tornadoes with the overnight system? There can be a spin-up tornado. It's not a tornado type of setup. that we're talking about for tonight, but you can get spin ups in this scenario. So I'm not going to say no, you can. But the threat that concerns us right now is a straight line wind event. And right now, I would say around St. Louis, Carbondale, Illinois, even Evansville, and perhaps even just northwest of Jasper, Indiana, would be much more at risk for that severe potential for high winds than the rest of us will be. I did add in the CSU. You guys love that. This is Colorado State severe parameters. Top left, tornado threat has 0, according to it. Hail potential, minor, north of 64. And then the bottom left box is your straight line wind threat. It certainly is elevated. And notice where it is. St. Louis, now it takes it all the way to the east. Now you got to keep in mind there will be additional storms forming in Ohio and heading east too today. So it looks like it's one complex Missouri and just rakes across the area. That's not exactly what will happen. That's why you got to understand time frames and how the setup is, because if you just look at that map, that's probably what you would think, but that's not the case. It's just that we're in that zone that if there's going to be any damaging wind potential, it's likely going to be in that zone there from St. Louis near 64 and points to the north. Here's your 10-day. I'll throw that on real fast here for you guys. Let's see. Is it going to be a cool August? I honestly, right now, August is looking very similar to what we've had so far. And if this keeps up, I think the Midwest is going to have a lot of severe weather still, like they had in Chicago, but we may be able to keep getting these breaks from the heat. So I'm not going to complain. I think that may be the trend. We're kind of locked in there. I think it's going to be another tropical system that'll have to shake things up. And right now, there's no tropical systems to track. Kevin, is tonight a washout in Louisville? Depends on what time. I wouldn't say, early evening, there's a chance that we still may remain dry as we're looking west and seeing storms in Missouri head our way. So it may be later into the evening. It really just depends on how the next 6 hours evolve. All I can tell you guys, my point in all this, let me get clear. So I'm looking at you guys. The point in all this is to give you a heads up. That's why we have the alert day out. Heads up. Take care of yourselves for the heat if you're out and about during the daytime today. Be aware of thunderstorms rolling in tonight. Timing is going to keep getting adjusted as we evolve there, because it's hard to trust modeling this close. You got to just trend the radar. And right now, the warnings coming out of Missouri tells me it's starting. We'll be able to give you more specific timing this afternoon, this evening, and just have a way to get notified. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your evening. Just have a way to be notified. That way, if things start going south, this will be easy to warn you guys on as far as giving a heads up, because once it forms and organizes, we're going to be able to track it. So it'll be a little easier than, say, a supercell or something like that that was going to pop right over the city. Those are hard to predict them when they'll actually pop. But in a complex like that, a lot easier. So we'll be able to give you more specific timing. So just stay close to our social media pages, and of course our 24-hour streaming channel that we have for you guys. That's up. That's always updated with alerts, and our thinking is typed out. So keep an eye on that 24-hour weather channel. If we change our wording and our thinking, you're going to see it there before you probably will, even on the newscast. Obviously, same on the Wave weather app. So keep that handy. All right. I'll end this by Joe saying, enjoy Taco Tuesday. Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate that. All right, guys. I got to run. Obviously, I got a lot to still work on the timing here, and get into the extended outlook to get ready for the midday show, which is coming up here in just about 1 hour. So I will see you guys then. Stay safe, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.